So thank you all for joining me today. For those of you who came on a little late, the theme for my webinar today is Feed Your Children Well. And that certainly is part of what we do as nutritionists, what we do in life, and what our work in the nutritional field is. And so that the father and mother's hell will slowly go by, that our children and the child within us does not have to suffer the way that there has been suffering and strife really in the last 100 years of this country in particular. And so this will be a series, and all of these recordings will be placed on my YouTube channel for your review later on, and with the notes, of course. And this is based on my book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. And there's a whole chapter, I think about 37 different protocols related to children and their welfare. So we're going to look at some basic themes today. And our dear friend, Monica Corrado, is going to join us. She has such a range and depth of knowledge on how to eat, how to feed ourselves, but especially one of the greatest areas and loves of her life is to feed children. So she'll be on and as a guest speaker here in a little bit. And as I say, I'll do a series, a part 2 and a part 3. If any of you would like me to teach a protocol in that chapter, you can email me at jantel52@aol.com, and I will consider that. Try to get as many in as possible in that chapter. Or any questions you might have that are protocols that I did not include in my book. One of the greatest assets that we have as human beings is our children. And when you get to be my age, your grandchildren. Now, if you didn't have children and you don't have grandchildren, there are plenty of other children in the world for you to help and nourish and help and assist on their journey. And of course, the child within us as well. So don't think for a second that this information today is just about children. This is about feeding yourself and how to care for yourself. Because in that beautiful way of feeding children or feeding the child within, something shifts in us. And for one thing is we seem to laugh more, we hope more, we give more, we pray more, we long for more, if we're in the flow of that energy. Because that energy is love without end. And so when we are attuned to that, life is very different. And if you take nothing out of this hour and a half with me today, take this: never lose your innocence. Find a way to regain your innocence and get it back. And a lot of that has to do with our very subject today, of keeping ourselves well, of using the nutrition, of the right nutrition that is accurate for our cycle in our human lifetime. Birth to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, if we make it that long. And so this ability to be aware of needing help, especially in the first 7 years of life. Remember that the first 7 years of life, let me just mute everyone out here. First 7 years of life is the template. That's when the template is created. And I would say 7 years and 9 months, actually. Probably it'd be good to say 8 years, because there is the time of health in the parents before conception. But that's the template for everything else that occurs in a human lifetime. So that the patterns that we establish, or were established for us as children, or we help establish for others, is everything, really, throughout the rest. And of course, just to mention, which somebody requested, which I will do, is to talk about the last 30 years of life. That's another conversation. Because as we grow older, we need people to take care of us too. But that's another conversation for another time. So in my lifestyle recommendations, of course, in my book, which I've already touched on here, is about keeping and maintaining that innocence. And especially with children, they should always be hugged every day. So should we. Open conversations, not argument, quiet time, a loving opening and closing to the day. Now, my parents read to us before bed. The sound of the human voice is one of the most inspiring and calming. Just as you heard the harmonies in that song with Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which they had the greatest harmonies, in my opinion, of anywhere ever in my lifetime. And so this harmony of conversing together, maybe singing together, is all part of this. Of course, doing things with children are very important, because children are open. Children can be fed poisons and never know it. They can be in a toxic environment and never know it. I just read it. I just heard a conversation, a woman that wrote a book about trauma. And she's talking about the first 7 years of life. Trauma changes brain chemistry. This is not a hypothesis. This is scientific fact. The trauma in the first 7 years of life creates a change in brain chemistry. We talk a lot about, in our conversations, about closed head injury. Well, it doesn't have to be a physical trauma. It can be mental and emotional trauma. And so the key facts of lifestyle, at least 8 to 10 hours, which we should all as adults be incorporating as well. You feel much better. And I can tell you this, having been to cancer and the other ups and downs of life, sleeping is when healing occurs. My parents always said that's when the angels come and work on you. Well, that's it. However you think about it. But resting in depth for those many hours is so important. Now, there are certain books that I've, recommended and I've used. And the two primary ones are the one written by Sally Fallon, which Saline River Press carries, Nourishing Traditions Book of Baby and Child. This is excellent. And this answers most all questions. And so particularly, we know the value of breastfeeding for the first year. Remember, the human immune system doesn't even develop until 1 year. So it doesn't even fully develop, and even longer, but specifically the groundwork of the human immune alliances don't come together until at least a year. So if a child is fed food that doesn't accommodate that, remember, eating is an immune event. You're bringing the outer world into your body. And that goes for us, of course, at any age, but particularly children. Now, being around children, being at birthday parties or being around children at meals, and once they have the sugar drink, even if it's apple juice, they start bouncing off the walls. Of course, it's too much for them, especially before 1 year old or ever, but that in particular. So many things, as I say, get established. We'll look at those in the next few minutes here. And of course, this whole element of trauma, whether the parents aren't aware of how to feed, we have to educate them. That is our work together. This is why we're doing this. And of all the diets, now you can say, paleo diet, good, but the GAPS diet in particular addresses this fact of trauma and brain chemistry. It was the whole premise of the book and why she wrote it. And so Monica is going to review the principles of that, as I say, in a little bit.
Joseph, it's Lynn.
Hey.
Hi.
What's that? What'd you say, Lynn? I lost you. Lynn? Oh, Lynn is having some technical difficulties. You can text me on your phone. So the main protocol for all of us today to
my internet's back up, and could you make
Oh, I'm losing you, Lynn. I'll make Monica host if she's on. Yeah. I mean, I'll make her co-host for now. Yeah. And then I'll make her host later. Okay. But feeding children, we will get into in depth in this session and the other sessions too, depending if Monica has time. But the basic protocol as I teach it is very simple. There is no reason, and I don't have the understanding in me why every parent would not use even the first two products. So in my book, I always list the supplements in order of importance. And so we're going to break that down. I'm going to go faster with some of these products and spend more time with others. The first product, as we know it, before we get into that, in the beginning of the 20th century, the early 1900s, the greatest endocrinologists in the world said this about nutrition and children. And here's what they were looking at. Here's what they were really concerned about. Nutrition in children is considered to be endocrinopathy based. In some instances, upon vitamin deficiency. Listen, in the early 1900s, everyone, most people didn't even know what a vitamin was. Some of the vitamins hadn't even been discovered, but these great men knew it. 1931. Vitamin deficiency. For vitamins undoubtedly are activators of the activators. Wheels within wheels, right? In a consideration of the effects of the ingestion of endocrine extracts. Not only were they talking about the little known vitamins at that time, but they were talking about eating the endocrine organs of animals. And I wanted to read you this, which I didn't make it into a slide, and we don't need to have it in a slide. And this was by Dr. Johnson, Edward Johnson, medical doctor in 1940. And he says, I quote, this is an article from Saline River Press on the historical archives. So you can get this. And this is just a review of the article. This excellent report, a reprint from the Journal of the American College of Proctology, starts with a clear description of all important connection between vitamin complexes as they are found in whole foods. Standard process, 1929. And the endocrine system. When we consider the vitamins in the food are the substances with which the endocrines are able to secrete their active principles, it is apparent that a glandular insufficiency may take place in the absence of vitamins. All the ductless glands, and he lists them, the thyroid, the parathyroids, the thymus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the adrenals, the gonads, the pancreas, which is the islets of Langerhans, and spleen, interesting, huh? Which I've taught you many times about the significance of spleen, must have one or more of the vitamins in order to secrete their vital fluids. And if deprived of the vitamins, will atrophy and cease to function. What more needs to be said, right? We have to put this together as I've put it together in my book. I didn't invent this. I'm just passing it on to you, what I learned. Children surely need the proper stimuli for their endocrine glands to develop their vital activities. The gastrointestinal tract. Now just let's pause here for 1 second. If 70 to 90% of the immune alliance lies in the gut biome of the intestinal tract, shouldn't we be feeding that? Shouldn't the endocrine glands be feeding that? And that feeding the endocrine glands? The gastrointestinal tract may be organically perfect, but it is unable to perform its function efficiently unless it receives these stimuli: vitamin, mineral, and like protein, which is the glandulars, and those of the vegetative nervous system. The vegetative nervous system means, not functioning well. Not a nervous system not functioning well. It is estimated by some observers that during the first 2 years of life, now I said the first year, how important that immune system, developing that immune alliance. Approximately 50%, half the children of the world, of all children, are infected with tuberculosis bacteria. It may be counted advisable to estimate the efficiency of the ductless glands of the vegetative nervous system in early infancy, since they represent a part of the mechanism of defense against the development of tuberculosis. If your gut is right, these bacteria, these viruses, these parasites cannot enter the system. In 1929, Dr. Lee began his work in the nutritional field with this product. It is what I've taught all the practitioners in my career when I was a sales rep. Dr. Gate is on, Michael Gate is on today. He can tell you, first thing I came to his office, maybe the second time, this is what I taught him, Catalin. This is a product that is seemingly low potent, but great in function. This is the core product, has always been the flagship product of Standard Process, and is the core product for either building in the early years or reestablishing the foundation of not just the immune alliance, but all the tissues. Now, I'm not gonna, of course, I've given you these out of this wonderful book, The Products Bulletin. I read this book every day. Still, 49 years, read this book every day. And you can go through and see the ranges that Lee felt was significant. So this is the essence of what Standard Process does in all the ranges, especially the core line of Dr. Lee, is all based on this one product. Now, speaking of my dear friend Michael Gata, I asked him, this is 20 years ago, to put together to break down Catalin. I heard him teaching this and I thought, can you put that into writing? So we cannot underestimate the power that is in food. What is in these concentrates? Now remember that Catalin, all the food substances, actually 70% of all the raw materials that Standard Process makes are grown on their farms. But the concentration of food is what we have to get. I have to get that through to you. It is not potency. It is function of food. What is the synergistic factors that we don't even know that are in there? And here it is. So you can go through this. Oh, did you know alfalfa contains calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, iron? Just to go through them all. But this is the ingredients of Catalin. Many people don't understand oats, why that is in. Oats and oat flour is one of the greatest relaxants of the nervous system that there is, just so you know. And by the way, for people that struggle with gluten when they hear oats, we get our oat flour from Canada and it is 100% gluten-free, just so you know. It's the only place we can get it from. We can source that from. But you can go through and see the benefit. But what I wanted to show you was Lee's great ability to take food concentrates and put them into a supplement, a condensed supplement, and then add the very specific, accurate glandulars. And so in Catalin, if you give a children's chewable Catalin to anyone, If they don't like the taste of the liver in Catalin, give them the chewable. You can't even taste it. Is adrenals, liver, spleen, and kidneys. Now, you will see that Dr. Li, and if you studied Chinese medicine at all with any teacher from Dr. Gaeta to any of the others, you will see that spleen was used and has been used, spleen extracts, for thousands of years, not decades, not hundreds. All these new fancy products coming out online are nothing compared to these core elements, which are contained in Catalin. And again, from this wonderful book, the product bulletins, you can see how Li valued each of these extracts. Now, listen, in Catalin, these are not protomorphogens, just to be clear. But he never wrote anything on, these are cytosol extracts. So just remember it this way. The protomorphogen is to relieve the burden on that organ, gland, or tissue so that it can recover and return to normalcy. The purpose of the cytosol extracts is to increase function. That's all you have to remember. You don't have to get technical with this. I'm a simple man. Just tell me what works and a one-liner as to why it works. That's it. I don't want to sit there. Of course, I've been sitting listening to others for years. I just need to know how I can help people. And so here it is. But I put in the information from this book on the protomorphogens because I wanted to give you a feel for what Dr. Li was thinking. Oh, adrenals. Oh, lowered resistance to colds and flu and pneumonia. Yeah. Allergic reactions, skin. So as an example. So again, I'm going to leave these with you. And of course, you should get this book, but you also have it in the notes. So yes, the products bulletin, and that's, of course, Saline River Press. So let me get through that. And then, so Catalin is really especially for children, is the core product. If you did nothing else, oh, that's why I scrolled up. I was ahead of my thought. If you did nothing else and you gave them Catalin, now, how do you dose? Now, I did like an average dose, but if it's 6 a day and the child is 25 pounds or under, you would do a third of the dose. So that would be 2 a day. If they're 25 to 50, it would be half the dose, so 4 a day. And that's what I did when I dosed this. If they're over 50 pounds, or I mean, sorry, 25, yeah, the 50 to 75, right, is 4, 2 twice a day. Above 75 pounds, that's an adult dose. So you can look at which is 3 twice a day. Same with the Conjuplex. Same with the calcium lactate. Okay, so very easy to understand and trust what I have put in here is my years of experience, but also this passing on this information just as it was taught. I've changed very little, and I've applied very little other outside of Li's principles and the basic principles of herbal medicine. So the other product that they carry in children's chewable, one is a cherry flavor and one is a raspberry flavor, and children love it. Chew them right up. My grandchildren, I don't even know which is cherry and which is raspberry, but my grandchildren know. Oh, Poppy, Catalin is whatever it is, the raspberry flavor. Conjuplex is the cherry. I said, oh, I didn't know that. They know, they've read the label. So here is what the essential factors in this tried and true combination product, this wonderful formulation. And as John Courtney, most of these commentaries, whether they say John or not, are from John. Conjuplex is the primary product for colds, flu, and congestion. It's not Congoplex. It's not from the Congo. It's congestion, Conjuplex, by the way. So again, you can read through this. I'm not going to read through it. Now, because they have flavoring in them, natural flavoring, sometimes you have to give more. And so now here he says chewable Conjuplex may be used for children 1 year or older, 9 tablets. And I'm so glad whoever wrote this, whether it was John or someone else, said that, because in that first year, they should be breastfed and the mother should be taking it. 9 tablets a day as suggested starting dose for children under 10. Each chewable tablet contains so the dosage is a little higher because of they put the raspberry or the cherry in there. Each chewable tablet contains approximately 1/3 the proprietary blend of Conjuplex capsules. So you'll know it's 3 to 1. The other product in the basic protocol for children is calcium lactate. You can call my daughters and say, what does your father say you need the most? And they'll say, I'll give you 3 words: calcium, calcium, calcium. Fevers, teething. It's unbelievable how this product works. And you don't have to believe anything that I'm saying, but particularly this. All you have to do is try it once. Or pain in your own body. Your own inability to sleep, to relax. Tablespoon of calcium lactate, 100% of the time. And energy. Dr. Lee always said, hey, if you're tired during the day, take some calcium lactate. Maybe you need some protofood with it, but calcium lactate. Now, we give you, and Dr. Lee gave you clinical considerations. Okay, good, we can use those. But I put this in here because I value you having Dr. Lee's thinking, not so much mine, but his. What is the #1 symptom for calcium lactate? Yes, calcium lactate, everyone. The #1 symptom that he valued the most. He always put everything in order of importance. That's why I do that. Tachycardia. Now think of all your clients that have tachycardia or arrhythmias. We never think of calcium lactate. Not much. We might think of it, oh, in the mix. Dr. Lee thought of it first. Interesting, huh? And here are his golden words. Any child that lacks that soluble calcium, that's ionizable, calcium bicarbonate, not calcium carbonate. Most others in this country are calcium carbonate products. They will not work in the system as effectively or as quickly, if at all. Any child that lacks the soluble calcium, calcium bicarbonate, is going to be susceptible to any disease that involves fever. In fact, he or she will develop a fever from the calcium deficiency alone in many cases. Whenever you've got a youngster that's running a temperature, and maybe it's just a degree or 2 above normal and wanders up and down. Now, there's another product for this too, but this is the key one. Whether it is the infant or anybody else, it's calcium deficiency. Even when children teeth, they run a little temp. I've been through this many times, having raised 2 children and advised hundreds of other parents. Calcium deficiency. I have never in my life, in my career, ever had calcium lactate not lower a fever. Now, if you've got the blessing of a friend that's a chiropractor, of course, the chiropractic adjustment will immediately lower a temperature within 15 minutes to an hour. Actually, it's quicker than that. But to address fevers, now, here are the things, the definitions in my book, I had to be careful, but I have my own definitions that I'm going to start, that I was going to put in the book, but it was not, I guess, legally safe. But I have my own definitions that I will give to you over time. I'm going to start doing that. I came across them the other day. Calcium lactate powder is the primary source of ionizable diffusible calcium. That means that calcium should not be in your blood. Calcium should be in your tissues. So you need the vitamin F with it. You need that delivery system with it, yes, which we'll get to in a second. But you've got to have usable calcium, diffusible calcium, ready, ionizable calcium. That means it's not bound to a protein. It's free calcium. If it's bound to a protein, it's going to hang around in the blood and it will end up in the bowel and it will give you either loose bowels or constipation. That anybody, I just talked to a practitioner this week. Why this one patient that every time she takes it, she gets not loose bowels, but constipated. Oh no, this was loose. And then I had another standard process rep call me. Why does it do that? Why does it create loose bowels? Because calcium does not belong in the bowel. It belongs in the tissues of the body. And so if it does not get utilized, diffuse from the blood to the tissue, it potentially can. It's very rare. It's really 1%, but it can happen. But the other key factor with fevers, as Lee was saying, is it begins the process by which phagocytosis, by which the white blood cells can do their job. They sit there and they can't do their job unless they are tapped on the shoulder by calcium lactate. It's the sergeant, as Mark Anderson teaches, it's the sergeant of the army. It tells the army, the men, women, to go get the enemy. That's what calcium lactate does. Without it, it's hard. But what the body does, interestingly enough, is it needs calcium, that 1% that's in your blood so much, it will take it out of your bones. That's why when you get a fever, a child gets a fever, they have sore muscles and people, even children will say, my bones are aching. Yes, because calcium is being bleached out of, taken out of the bones itself. That's how much the body needs calcium in the blood. Of course, a child with, any types of scrapes and bruises, all body tissues and the muscle relaxant. And then the F factor. Now with children, you can try to give them F tablets, that's fine. But the other great source of vitamin F, which also acts as an anti-inflammatory for them and for their brain, is the tuna omega-3 oil. And it comes in a children's chewable. Here it is. And the children's chewable, interestingly enough, adds in the vitamin D, which the adult one does not have. Don't ask me why they didn't put it in the adult one. I don't know. So this is your vitamin F factor. That's going to be the dance partner to the calcium lactate. Now, just to finish, not to go into this too much, remember that I said in the very beginning, children bring the outer world through food. That's why sitting down with children at meals, having quiet conversation, no sugar at meals, and thanking God or the universe for your food, prayer, or a moment of silence, a moment of gratefulness for your food, because you're taking the outer world into your temple, your body. You want to do that while you're arguing? You know what? You should never eat if you're upset. Do not eat. Never. It's poison. There are studies that say that the food can turn to poison through anger, through stress, through trauma. We have to get to that point. So children especially. But the main thing with children, with mainly bacterial infections, is, and if they didn't breastfeed or they were introduced to bad food right away, that indigenous flora, the biome, that indigenous biome is always under duress. It's always under fire. This is the product. Remember, probiotics do not feed the indigenous bacteria. They don't. The bacteria that's always there. Probiotics come and go. They're the wonderful aunt and uncle that visit and everything's good and they make you feel better, probably bring you junk food. But you need the substance that's going to convert carbohydrate into a friendly bacteria. That's why fermented foods are so important. Same principle here. And that feeds the indigenous. And the other thing that probiotics do not do that these fermented foods do is they change the pH. They change the energy field of that environment. The pathogen is nothing. The terrain is everything. Nothing can enter your body if the terrain is at its balance point. It can't get in. Most of these substances that do us harm are alkaline in nature. That's why the gut should be about 6.5, slightly acidic. Now, this is, so this comes in a wafer. I would like to see this in a powder, but they're talking about putting this into a caplet because for some reason people don't like wafers. I have no idea why. But anyway, lactans is going to be your probiotic, your friendly bacteria, and this is great for children. My children and grandchildren open the capsule and pour the capsule, the content, into their mouth. They still, I should get a video. I'll get a video for next time of them doing it. They love the taste of it. In fact, I have to stop them. They'll get 12 in there. So this product is such a great global because it has the acidophilus for the large intestine. It has the bifidus for the small intestine. And it has lipase, amylase, and protease. Oh, protease for breaking down protein, amylase, carbohydrate, lipase, fats, all in this one product. In fact, Standard Now is now making this in-house. They used to have that made out for them. The final piece that, again, because of time here running out, and I want to give Monica plenty of time, is the Biodent or the Calcifood wafers or powders. This is essential because children's teeth are coming in, their bones are growing, and without the essential nutrients contained in these, this is a living, not just bone flour. And I've given you this wonderful article that I've read to you before that Dr. Lee wrote in the early 1960s about calcifood. This is a living food. You could live off of this if this was the only thing that this, and I like Syra food, which is a combination of a powdered catalin and calcifood. But even if you just had calcifood, you could live. If you were Tom Hanks on the island and you had one thing, either Syra food or calcifood, you could live fine. Because this not only has in the bone flour, has all the 22 amino acids, everything for growth. What don't children have? And the same with Biodent. This is just in a tablet form. This is the tablet form of this, basically. This has a little bit more flour in it, more volume in it. And this product has some manganese, which is also good. But it's important that children have this, especially once they get off of breast milk and they're developing. Growth cycles in children, when they go through, when the bone plates are finishing up developing, you've got to give them. This is why children have bad teeth, crooked teeth. This is all malnutrition, because our society does not eat ground up bone or bones that are cooked in a soup, and the goodness of that. So so there's that. So now I'd like to give the floor to our wonderful friend, Monica Corrado, to spend some time. She has this book, which is in your notes on Saline River Press. She can talk about it, and she teaches like I do. I believe it's weekly. So I'm going to turn this over to Monica. And so Monica, if you, let me find you here.
I am here.
Okay, and I'm going to make you.
And Joseph, if you.
Go ahead, Lynn. Lynn's cutting out. Just text me what you want, Lynn. I'm going to make you host, Monica, and
Okay.
I'm going to turn the screen over to you. There you go.
All right, I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint now. Hold on, I gotta find it. Isn't that funny? Where is it?
How long have you been doing this now, Monica?
How long have I been doing?
Teaching food.
Oh, I've been teaching food for over 18 years. And prior to that, I had...
You can hear me, make me call.
Okay.
I can't
Can
do
you
it.
make her? I have to make her co-host?
Yeah,
Okay, hold on a second. Holding on, Zoom meeting up. Let me find Lynn, L-Y-N-N. Okay, here's Lynn. Let me make you a co-host. All right, yes I do. All right, there, I did it. All righty. All right, I'm gonna go grab my PowerPoint. And it is not coming up on this computer, which is very bad. So let me get on my other computer, which is where it's sitting.
Okay.
And let me pull it up over there. Momento. Fun, right? First,
okay.
I have to find you.
I can talk for a little bit.
Okay.
And so later on, I'll show you that one of the things that you can do for children, if we have time to get to it, and I think we will, we'll go an hour and a half today, is to make shakes for children. Get them used to shakes, because you can disguise anything in there. Anything that you want to give them. You can even give them protomorphogens. All you have to do is grind them up and put them in the shake. Yeah, they have a little saltiness to them, but not much of a taste. So these are things that you can do readily and develop these aren't even habits. Some people call them lifestyle habits. They're not habits. They are how to live. They are directions of walking the journey through life. And so right at the onset of giving children a shake, even if you give them a teaspoon when they're really young, in the morning and the evening of a shake that you make up. Get them used to it. They will never know the difference. After 7 years, it will be part of them. They will be doing it themselves. So, are you ready, Monica? No? Oh, she's getting on the other.
I am ready.
Do I have to remake you co-host?
I don't think so, because I'm working between 2 different computers. I wonder, can you all hear me, or can you hear me too?
I can hear you with an echo, yes.
Okay, let me turn this off. I'm going to leave this side. I'm going to go on the other side.
Yeah, we hear you.